This week, the world debate comes from Morocco, where they're debating security in the region. Nick Gowing is in the chair with a top panel of guests.
Welcome from me, Nick Gowing, to Marrakesh in Morocco. Can face-to-face meetings between the main leaders in the Middle East ever achieve lasting security and peace right across the region and beyond? The momentum for high-level negotiations seems to be faltering, despite the commitment to progress engineered by President Obama last month. Gloom and distrust between the two parties seem to be growing again. So, peace in the Middle East? Are the right people talking? That's our BBC World Debate from Marrakesh. Well, you join us here with delegates to the World Economic Forum regional meeting in Marrakesh, but trying to air Middle East peace talks and peace issues in an impartial, balanced way for a BBC World Debate like this has highlighted both the intensity of feelings and emotions and the difficulties of even getting people to talk to each other. After the King of Morocco refused to meet Israel's President Shimon Peres, Mr. Peres refused to attend this conference. Other members of the Israeli government then declined our invitation to this debate. In fact, a number of people we approached on all sides declined our invitation to take part. They told us they would not participate or even join the audience if certain representatives from another side took part. But those who are here today are willing to take part in this debate. So thank you to you for joining us for this BBC World Debate in Marrakesh. First, we're joined by Dr. Hussam Zomlot, who is Executive Deputy Commissioner for the Fatah Commission for International Relations, representing the Palestinians normally in Ramallah. Also, Dori Gold, by video link from Jerusalem, former ambassador, current president of the Jerusalem Center for Public Affairs. He's held official positions in a number of right-of-center Israeli governments, serving Prime Ministers Ariel Sharon and Benjamin Netanyahu. He's been a member of Israeli negotiating teams on many issues with the Palestinians and Arab states. And Khalid Abdullah Janahi, a businessman and banker from the Gulf, co-chair of the Global Agenda Regional Council on the Middle East, and you describe the Arab-Israeli conflict as the mother of all problems. But our discussion must also involve a lot of other people as well. Many of you here in the audience in Marrakesh. This includes young people from several countries in the region, brought together by the British Council as part of the Changemaker program. It selects and gathers young activists, volunteers and social entrepreneurs interested in shaping the future. So, what might it take to have successful negotiations and ultimately an agreement that could lead to Middle East peace? That is our debate. And to help us assess the answers, I'm joined here by Professor Dan Shapiro, founder and director of the International Negotiation Program at Harvard University in the United States. You analyze why negotiations work and why they fail. You provide advice to groups and governments around the world. You're going to watch and listen to our debate and then give your assessment of what you hear at the end. Dan Shapiro, our question is, are the right people talking? In your experience, what kind of people or personalities offer the chances for negotiations to succeed?
Right. Well, first, do the people even want to talk? There seems to be a growing resentment, growing frustration in the air, a growing disbelief that negotiation will actually go anywhere. And yet, at the same time, what is the alternative to negotiating? Is it increased deprivation for the Palestinians? Is it increased risk of insecurity for the Israelis? Is it the increased likelihood of a massive regional war? These are not very attractive alternatives. It makes negotiation much more attractive in itself. And yet, at the same time, are the right people talking? To some degree, that's the problem, not the answer. It's that everybody is talking who is actually listening. At a core, it seems this is a deeply emotional conflict. Resentment, frustration, humiliation. People want to feel heard and recognized, and that helps to actually have the problem solving happen. These are two major challenges facing the region right now around negotiation.
Well, let's get your view of what you hear in the next few minutes, right up until the end of the debate, to see how you might be changing or modifying that view, certainly when it comes to the Middle East. Let me go now to Hussam Zomlot from the Fatah position in Ramallah. Are the right people talking to try and achieve a Middle East peace deal?
Like, yes and no. Yes, from the Palestinian side, I believe President Mahmoud Abbas has been in the forefront of the peace camp, has been very clear from day one that his entire career is built on achieving a negotiated settlement. For that purpose, he has led a campaign all of his life, whereby today it has cultivated in what is happening in the West Bank in terms of institution building, in terms of the security situation, in terms of the growth we are witnessing, and in terms of this momentum that you spoke about in your introduction, the international momentum. It is based primarily on the fact that there is a Palestinian leadership that is absolutely and adamantly pursuing on the path of peace. Unfortunately, at the Israeli side, we see nothing but the lack of a vision vis-à-vis the future. We see much more petty politics in terms of keeping the coalition at the expense of the vision that you, the international community, and the Palestinians are envisaging.
Let's go to Jerusalem, to Dori Gold. Are the right people talking at the moment to achieve, in the end, a lasting Middle East peace?
Well, what determines who are the right people is the democratic will of the people of Israel and of the Palestinians. Since 1993, when Israel and the PLO signed the Oslo Accords, we have gone through 6 Israeli prime ministers, 3 U.S. presidents, and 2 PLO chairmen, and no one reached a final peace. Let's admit, these are very difficult issues. But you know something? I am hopeful that we can reach a final peace, because I don't allow the failures of the past to prohibit us from thinking out of the box in new ways.
Let's get a view from business and outside the political field from Khalid Abdullah Janahi. What's your view?
Well, I think I go along with Dan. Everybody's talking, but are the right people being listened to? I think that is much more important. People are not listening to the views of the street. And when you look at it...
Who do you mean by the street?
The street, I mean the 300 million people on the Arab side and 6 million in the Israeli side. That is the street as far as I'm concerned.
Are you telling us that the negotiators, those negotiating, are not listening to the street at the moment?
Well, let's be, I mean, because when we talk about Palestinians, it's a specific issue itself.
Who needs to be talking then?
Well, I mean, from a Palestinian perspective, whether we like it or not, I think I heard about the democratic perspective there. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, 2006 was the election time, and somebody was elected, whether we like it or not, was called Hamas. Hamas still represent the Palestinians as far as the elections are concerned. There might be constitutional issues, but I look at it from the street perspective. Still, Hamas is there. Why Hamas is excluded from the discussions on this issue, which is an important factor from a Palestinian side.
Right, let's move on, because a lot of you have views on many of the issues that we're trying to raise in this debate here in Marrakesh. Let's go to Karim Sajapur from the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace, with this issue picking up on what we've just heard about Hamas.
Building on Khalid's point, Hamas, Hezbollah, Iran have seemingly become too influential to exclude from the peace process. On the other hand, trying to include them seems akin to inviting vegetarians to a barbecue, because they disagree with the fundamental premise of a two-state solution. So how do we reconcile this?
Hussam Zomlot.
Number one, I don't think Hamas disagrees with the two-state solution. We have been hearing Mish'al and all the Hamas leadership really endorsing the two-state solution. Number two, they also have said that Abu Mazen goes and represents all Palestinians and he negotiates. Number one, we need to be included. If not included, we want to offer any agreement to a referendum. We do not have that problem. That problem has to be behind us. The problem we have is in Israel, and the problem is very simple. By the way, these are not difficult issues. These are very simple, straightforward.
But should Hamas be involved or not, in your view, in Ramallah?
Hamas would be involved once we sort all of our issues, yes, indeed. The question is not about Hamas. Hamas is not the obstacle right now vis-à-vis the peace process. The obstacle is the lack of an Israeli recognition of the very basic Palestinian political right.
Dori Gold, here you've heard 3 loud voices suggesting that Hamas given their success in elections, should be represented if there's going to be any chance of moving forward on Middle East peace? Your view?
Well, you know, the problem is Hamas does not even adhere to the criteria that were established by the quartet just a few years ago. Hamas does not recognize Israel. Hamas does not accept past agreements. And Hamas will not renounce violence. They believe in mukawama. They are the symbol of mukawama, of resistance, armed resistance. And therefore, you know, it sounds very liberal to have everybody get together in the room and talk, but what are you going to talk about? You know, had Hamas been willing to accept these three basic conditions that the quartet, the United States, the United Nations, the European Union, and Russia had laid down before Hamas, that would have opened up tremendous amounts of European assistance to the Gaza Strip, to the Hamas regime, but they adhere to their jihadi ideology. Let's be realistic.
Let me press you on that,
therefore, to bring them to the table, we would just not produce any progress. It would create a much bigger problem.
We know very well the Israeli concerns about this, but let's talk about what would happen if Hamas did enter the discussions. Do you believe there would be a much greater possibility of forward momentum?
Look, it's hard for some people in the West to fathom this fact, but there are organizations in the Middle East that call for the destruction of Israel, that call for the establishment of a new caliphate to replace the states of the Middle East, to replace President Mubarak in Egypt, to replace King Abdullah of Jordan, to replace all the regimes. This you can't negotiate with. It would be great if you could be inclusive, but you have to read the Hamas charter. You have to see what Hamas leaders are saying. This is about as sensible as bringing Osama bin Laden to the table with President Obama. It doesn't work, and it won't work.
Khalid Janahi, you're shaking your head.
Well, I mean, talking about democratic process, I mean, either we accept democratic process or we don't. If the people choose who they want to be represented by, they are the ones who've been chosen. Now, we got to allow these people to have the time. I mean, the morning after the day before, we always remember, I don't know if it was 23rd or 26th of January 2006, suddenly everybody stopped and everybody was basically hammering the Palestinians. We were in the business and we were being encouraged to do business. I can see some ex-ministers or current ministers. We were encouraged to do business in Palestine at that time, and we were working at it. And suddenly we were told by congressmen, and I was at a dinner in Davos, hey, anybody who puts money into that place will be in deep trouble. Now, so you're giving basically the international community, the local community, the regional community, the wrong aspect here. One place you want democracy. There was corruption issues. Everything was raised at that time. The democracy was called for. And we had the democratic process. We didn't see that the democratic process going through.
No, back to what Dori said, that there are institutions in the Middle East that would want to see the destruction of the state of Israel. Yes, Dori, there are. But many of them are in Israel. Many of these institutions are Israeli institutions, among them the settler community, the settler movement, the Yusha Council, who have celebrated the end of the moratorium, who have shot the first shot on the current existing peace process, and who have been absolutely adamant in murdering any possibility for us to move forward. Facts are there, very striking. The matter of fact is, as we stand today, there is no Israeli leadership that is coming out very clearly saying that we recognize the Palestinian state as the Palestinians have recognized us pre-1967 borders. And what we have right now in the West Bank, the last thing is the settlers yesterday in a major Nablus village attacked the farmers, burning 660. This is a daily incident.
Hussam Zomlot, I did ask the question, though, about Hezbollah and Iran, about widening it still further.
As far as we are concerned, Palestinians, Iran is not our main conflict. The conflict is very well defined. It is with Israel. It is a matter of foreign occupation, occupying Arab land. Iran does not occupy Arab land. We have no direct conflict with Iran whatsoever.
Dori Gold, the idea of going even beyond Hamas to Hezbollah and Iran.
Well, I think the main problem we face in the Middle East is Iran.